3 days before Christmas, they told the three kids they had nothing left. No parents, no home. The system said it had safe places for them, just
I'm
not together.
sorry.
The oldest boy stood up and said,
Sorry. If we can't stay together, we're not going.
snow outside, paperwork on the table, and in the back of the room, an old veteran named Henry Walker was listening. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't promise a miracle, but he knew one thing. Sometimes God doesn't send help loudly. Sometimes he sends someone who stays. You three don't have anything left, the caseworker said. No family, no home. We've arranged safe places for you to go. It's just that you can't stay together. The words hit the room like ice. No shouting, no crying, just the low rattle of an old heater and the soft tapping of snow against the window. It was a county administrative office, dressed up for Christmas in the bare minimum way. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A crooked Happy Holidays poster hung on the wall. A short string of red and green bulbs blinked in the corner, like someone had remembered Christmas at the last second. On a cold plastic bench, three siblings sat pressed shoulder to shoulder, as if keeping each other upright. The oldest, 12, maybe 13, had the face of a kid who'd stopped expecting adults to fix things. Thin cheeks, quiet eyes, the kind of look that comes from learning too early how the world works. The middle child sat close, fingers locked tight around the older boy's sleeve. The youngest leaned into his side, wrapped in a coat that was too big and still not warm enough. A few flakes of snow melted slowly into the fabric near the collar. Across from them, the caseworker kept her voice calm, soft, professional. She spoke the way people do when they're trained to deliver bad news without sounding cruel. I know you've been through a lot, she said. We're trying to help. She opened the file. Paper, forms, checkboxes. None of them had space for a sentence like, please don't separate us. Your house is no longer safe, she continued. After the fire, the structure failed inspection. With winter here, it's dangerous. This is the fastest way to make sure you have heat, food, and supervision, she paused. But it would mean 3 different placements. The room went still. The oldest boy looked down at his brother and sister. Then he looked back up at the caseworker. He stood. The plastic chair scraped loudly against the floor, sharp and final. His voice shook, but he didn't sit back down. No, he said, if we can't stay together, we're not going. The caseworker froze for half a second, not shocked, just tired, like she'd heard that sentence before, and it never got easier. Sweetheart, she said gently, I understand, but the system, I can't. You said we don't have anything left, the boy interrupted, still shaking, but clearer now. That part's true. We don't. So what's the last thing we do have? He swallowed. We have each other. The youngest tightened her grip on his coat. The middle child stared at the floor, like eye contact might make the decision real. If you split us up, the oldest boy said, then you take the last thing we have. The caseworker's mouth tightened. Not anger, just helplessness. It's not that I want to do this, she said. It's that finding one family willing to take 3 siblings, especially right before Christmas, is extremely rare. The boy answered immediately, like he'd been holding the words in for weeks. Then we'll stay here, he said. We'll sit in the hallway. We'll sleep on a bench, but we're not going separately. For a moment, the office didn't feel like an office anymore. It felt like a place where the wrong thing was legal, and the right thing wasn't possible. In the back row, an older man sat quietly, with a cane resting against his knee. His name was Henry Walker. He wasn't wearing a uniform. He didn't need to. There was something about the way he sat, straight-backed, still, alert, that told you he had spent a lifetime paying attention. Henry had come in for paperwork, something small, routine, just another errand, but he'd heard every word. He didn't stare at the children. He didn't shake his head or sigh. He just listened, the way men do when they're deciding whether something matters enough to step into. The caseworker lowered her voice, like speaking softly might soften the truth. If you refuse placement, she told the boy, you'll be put on a waiting list. I can try to keep you together temporarily, but I can't promise anything. Winter doesn't give us much time. The oldest boy didn't flinch. We'll wait, he said, but we'll wait together. The caseworker glanced at the 2 smaller kids. Do you understand what waiting means? She asked. It could mean moving around, temporary places, uncertainty. The boy let out a short breath, not rude, just tired. "We've been doing that," he said, "for months." Then he said the part adults always hated hearing. "Our parents died earlier this year," he said quietly. "After that, we stayed wherever people would let us. Then the house burned. They said it wasn't safe. We moved again, and again." He looked toward the blinking Christmas lights in the corner. "Christmas comes," he said, "and everyone goes home. We don't have one." The youngest child's face crumpled, but she didn't cry out loud. She'd learned that crying didn't change paperwork. The oldest boy looked back at the caseworker. "But we still have each other," he said, "and we're not giving that up." Outside the window, snow fell thick and steady. Across the street, a shop window glowed with a wreath and warm light. People hurried past with shopping bags, shoulders dusted white, heading somewhere warm. Inside this office, 3 kids were saying no to the safest option on paper, because it came with a price they couldn't afford. In the back row, Henry Walker closed his eyes for a brief moment. Then he opened them. He didn't know yet what he was going to do, but he knew this much. Some words aren't meant to disappear into the air, not in a world this cold. And that's where Chapter 1 ends. With the oldest boy still standing, still holding the line, still holding his siblings together like a promise. If we can't stay together, we're not going. The meeting ended without a signature. That was how it always happened when nobody won. The caseworker closed the folder and stood, not abruptly, not gently either, just finished. The kind of finish that meant the clock had more authority than anyone in the room. "I need to step out for a moment," she said. "Please stay seated." The 3 kids didn't move. The oldest was still standing. He didn't know what sitting down would mean yet, and he wasn't ready to find out. The caseworker walked into the hallway, heels quiet on the tile. The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded too final for something that wasn't over. The office went quiet again. Snow slid down the window in slow white lines. The heater coughed once and kept going. In the back row, Henry Walker shifted his weight and leaned forward on his cane. He hadn't planned on speaking to anyone today. He'd come in to update a record, proof of address, proof of life, something like that. But some moments don't ask what you planned. Henry waited until the caseworker stepped into the hall. Then he stood, not fast, not dramatic, just steady. He followed her out. The hallway smelled faintly of old paper and burnt coffee. A small Christmas wreath hung crooked above a bulletin board covered in flyers, lost pets, church dinners, a handwritten note that said, "Free coats. Ask inside." The caseworker turned when she heard footsteps. "Yes," she said, already tired. Henry nodded once, polite, respectful. "Ma'am," he said, "can I ask you something?" She hesitated, then sighed. "If it's about them, I already told them everything I can." Henry didn't argue. "If they refuse placement," he asked, "what happens next?" The caseworker looked down the hallway, then back at him. Her voice dropped. "They go on a waiting list." Henry waited. "For how long?" he asked. She pressed her lips together. "There isn't a timeline I can promise. We try to keep siblings together temporarily, but winter shelters are full. Emergency options are limited." Henry nodded, once. "And if nothing opens up?" She exhaled slowly. "Then the system moves forward without them." Henry didn't react right away. "So, if they hold their ground," he said, "they risk having nothing." "That's not how I'd say it," she replied quickly. "We're not heartless, we just work with what you have," Henry finished for her. She looked at him, surprised, then relieved. "Yes," she said quietly. "That." They stood there for a moment, listening to the distant hum of the building. Somewhere, a copier started and stopped. Somewhere else, a door opened and closed. Henry glanced back toward the office door. "They're not being stubborn," he said. "They're being loyal." The caseworker's shoulders dropped a fraction. "I know," she said, "but loyalty doesn't show up on our forms." Henry gave a small nod. "No," he said, "it doesn't." He turned to leave, then stopped. "If someone were willing to take all 3, he asked, "what would that take?" The caseworker straightened, professional again. "A background check, a home inspection, temporary guardianship paperwork. It wouldn't be fast, but it would be possible." Henry absorbed that. "Thank you," he said. Back inside the office, the kids were exactly where he had left them. The youngest swung her feet just above the floor, not touching anything. The middle child stared at a crack in the tile like it held instructions. The oldest still stood, shoulders squared, hands shaking just enough to show how much it cost him. The caseworker returned a minute later. "We're going to pause for today," she said gently. "I'll make some calls. In the meantime, you'll stay on the list." The oldest boy nodded once. "Together?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded back. "Together, for now." It wasn't a promise, but it wasn't a no. Henry watched their faces change at that one small phrase, "for now." It wasn't relief, it was permission to keep breathing. Outside, the afternoon light faded early, the way it always did in December. Christmas was 3 days away. The town would be quieter tomorrow. Offices would close. Phones would go unanswered. The system didn't wait, but it did slow down. Henry stepped out into the cold. Snow crunched under his boots. His breath came out white and thin. Across the street, the hardware store window glowed warm, a fake tree propped near the register. Henry stood there for a long moment, hands deep in his coat pockets. He thought about the boy's voice. "If we can't stay together, we're not going." He'd heard men say similar things before, in foxholes, in hospitals, in quiet kitchens after funerals. It wasn't defiance. It was a line in the ground. Henry turned and started walking. He knew someone, not family, not a friend he called on Sundays, but a man he'd known a long time, a man who didn't talk much, a man who worked the land outside town and kept to himself, a man who years ago had told Henry one simple thing over a cup of bad coffee. "They split us up," the man had said, "and nobody ever put us back together." Henry hadn't forgotten that sentence. He pulled his coat tighter and headed toward his truck. Christmas lights flickered on along the main street as dusk settled in. Somewhere, a church bell rang the hour. Henry didn't know yet how he was going to ask. He didn't know what the answer would be, but he knew one thing for sure. If anyone would understand those kids, it would be someone who knew what it meant to lose a family and never get it back. And that's where Chapter 2 ends, with Henry Walker driving through falling snow, carrying a name and a memory, toward a decision that hadn't been made yet, but couldn't be ignored. Henry Walker drove with both hands on the wheel, not because the roads were bad, though they were slick with snow, but because that's how men like Henry drove when they were thinking hard. Christmas lights blurred along the main street as he passed, red and green, soft and distant. People were inside warm stores, buying gifts, laughing like the world made sense. Henry kept going. Out past the last row of houses, the town fell away. Streetlights disappeared. The road narrowed. Snow covered the shoulders like a clean sheet pulled over something ugly. His truck heater worked, but the cold still found the edges of his bones. That wasn't new. Henry had lived long enough to know winter always gets in somehow. He turned onto a gravel road, tires crunching. A mailbox came into view, half buried in snow, its numbers faded. This wasn't a stranger's place. Henry had known the man who lived out here for years, not family, not a close friend, but the kind of acquaintance built from time and shared silence and doing what needed doing without making a speech about it. The man's name was Eli Carter. Henry remembered the first time he met him, years back, after a nasty storm had taken down fences and power lines. Eli had been out there in the cold, fixing what he could with his bare hands, refusing help until Henry offered it the way men do when pride is involved. No big talk, no gratitude parade, just a nod. Appreciate it. And that was that. Eli wasn't warm, but he wasn't cruel either. He was just closed, like a door that had been locked for a long time. Henry parked near the edge of the property. The farm looked quiet under the snow. A low barn, a sagging fence line, a porch light that burned steady, not festive, not cheerful, just there. Henry stepped out. The cold hit him clean. His boots sank into powder. His cane tapped to the ground once, solid. He walked up to the house and knocked. Not a polite tap-tap, a real knock, the kind you give when you came for a reason. A moment passed, then the door opened halfway. Eli stood there in a flannel shirt and a heavy coat, hair uncombed, face tired. The kind of tired that didn't come from work. It came from life. His eyes went to Henry's face. "Henry," he said, like the name carried weight. "Eli," Henry answered. For a second, neither spoke. That was normal for them. Then Eli opened the door wider. "Come in," he said. Inside, the house smelled like wood smoke and coffee that had been reheated too many times. It wasn't decorated for Christmas, no tree, no stockings, but it was warm. Eli nodded toward a chair. Henry sat carefully, setting his cane beside him. Eli poured coffee into a chipped mug and slid it across the table. Henry didn't thank him, not because he wasn't grateful, because men like them didn't do that dance. They did the action. Eli leaned back against the counter, arms folded. "You didn't drive out here in this weather for small talk," he said. Henry gave a slow nod. "No," he said, "I didn't." He took one sip of coffee, then set the mug down. "There are 3 kids," Henry said. "Siblings." Eli's face didn't change, but his eyes sharpened slightly, like he was paying attention now. Henry kept his voice plain, simple. "They lost their parents earlier this year," Henry said. "They've been drifting, staying where they can. Then their house caught fire. Now the county says it isn't safe. Winter's here, and the system's trying to place them." Eli listened. No reaction, just stillness. "They've got one condition," Henry added. "They stay together." That was the first thing that landed. Eli's jaw tightened a fraction. Henry watched it happen and continued carefully. "The caseworker told them there are safe homes," Henry said. "But 3 different homes, 3 different families, 3 different doors." Eli didn't speak. Henry leaned forward slightly. "The oldest boy stood up in that office," he said, "and he said, 'If we can't stay together, we're not going.'" Silence filled the kitchen. The fire in the stove ticked softly. Eli stared at the table like he was seeing something else there, something old. Henry didn't rush him. After a long moment, Eli finally spoke, voice low. "3," he said. "They're trying to split 3." Henry nodded. Eli let out a breath, slow and controlled, like he was keeping something from breaking. Henry didn't push. He didn't tell him what to feel. He simply said the truth. "I thought of you," Henry said. Eli's eyes lifted. "That's a dangerous thing to say," Eli replied, half flat, half warning. Henry didn't smile. "I'm not here to make you a hero," Henry said. "I'm here because I know you understand the part that matters." Eli didn't argue. He turned away for a second, staring out the window at the snow-covered yard. When he spoke again, it sounded like a memory being forced out of a locked room. "They split us up," Eli said quietly. Henry didn't interrupt. Eli swallowed. "Not all at once," he said, "but it happened. Different houses, different towns. You lose track. You stop believing you'll see them again." His hand tightened around the edge of the counter. "And nobody ever put us back together." Henry nodded once, slow. "That's what I remembered," Henry said. Eli turned back toward him, eyes hard, not angry at Henry, angry at something older. "And what do you want from me?" Eli asked. Henry answered straight. "I want you to meet them," he said. "That's all? You can say no. You can close the door. I won't blame you." Eli stared at him for a long moment. Outside, the wind pushed snow against the window like it wanted in. Eli's voice came quiet. "Where are they?" he asked. Henry's chest tightened slightly. Not relief, not yet. Just the knowledge that the question itself meant something had shifted. "At the county office," Henry said. "Still on the list, still together, for now." Eli looked down, then back up. He didn't say yes, not yet, but he didn't say no either. He walked to the sink, rinsed his mug, set it upside down like he needed one small task to keep his hands steady. Then he said, very softly, almost to himself, "Christmas." Henry waited. Eli turned back, eyes steady now. "Bring them tomorrow," he said. "Early." Henry held his gaze. "You sure?" Henry asked. Eli's jaw worked once, like he was swallowing a hard truth. "No," he said, "but I'm asking anyway." Henry nodded. That was as close to a promise as men like them ever gave. Henry stood, reached for his cane. At the door, Eli spoke again. "Henry," he said. Henry paused. Eli's voice was low, serious. "If I do this, they stay together, all the way, no halfway." Henry didn't hesitate. "That's the point," he said. He stepped out into the snow. The cold hit him again, sharp and honest. He walked to his truck slowly, careful with each step. Behind him, the porch light stayed on, steady in the winter dusk. And that's where Chapter 3 ends, with Henry Walker carrying one small, heavy victory back into the snow. Not a solution yet, but a door that didn't close. Henry Walker was back at the county office before the sun fully came up. December mornings in a small town don't wake up softly. They wake up cold. The sky stays gray. The snow looks blue in the shadows. and the air has that sharp bite that makes you breathe slower. Inside the building, the lights were already on, the same buzzing fluorescence, the same dull warmth from old heaters that never quite reached your feet. The caseworker looked surprised when she saw Henry again. "Mr. Walker," she said, "you're back." Henry nodded, calm, direct. "I found someone willing to meet them," he said. Her expression changed in 1 second, from polite confusion to guarded hope. "Willing to meet all three?" she asked carefully. "All three," Henry said. "Together." The caseworker didn't smile. Not yet. She'd learned not to celebrate too early. "Do you have a name?" she asked. Henry gave it to her. "Eli Carter." The caseworker paused, thinking. "I know that name," she said quietly. "Out on the old gravel road. Farm property, no trouble on record." Henry didn't respond to the last part. He wasn't here for no trouble. He was here for a door that would stay open. The caseworker picked up her folder and stood. "Okay," she said. "We can do an informal meet first, but I need you to understand. This doesn't become placement today. It's steps. Background, home check, temporary guardianship forms." Henry nodded once. "I understand," he said, "but they need something real to hold on to." The caseworker looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Let me bring them in," she said. A minute later, the 3 kids walked into the room. Same coats, same tired faces, same tight formation, like they'd been trained by life to never let go. The oldest boy saw Henry and stopped, not because he recognized him, because he recognized what Henry represented, an adult who came back. Most adults didn't. Henry kept his voice gentle but clear. "Morning," he said. The oldest boy didn't answer right away. Then he gave a small nod. The caseworker sat across from them again, but her tone had shifted, less official, more human. "There's someone who wants to meet you," she said. "A man named Eli Carter. He owns a small farm out this town." The youngest child's eyes widened. "A farm?" she whispered. The oldest boy's shoulders tightened. His instincts flared up, because hope can be a trap. "Why?" he asked. Simple, sharp, like he'd learned not to accept gifts without understanding the price. The caseworker opened her mouth, but Henry answered first. "Because he understands one thing," Henry said, "that you don't split a family just because it's inconvenient." The room went quiet again. The oldest boy stared at Henry for a long moment. "You know him?" the boy asked. Henry nodded. "I do," he said. "A long time." The boy glanced down at his brother and sister, then back up. "Is this real?" he asked. Henry didn't promise what he couldn't control. "It's a meeting," Henry said, "and it's a chance." The oldest boy took that in. Then he said the only thing that mattered. "We stay together," he said. The caseworker nodded. "I know," she said. "That condition has been made very clear." Outside, snow started falling again, soft and steady, like the sky was trying to cover the world in silence. An hour later, Henry's truck rolled out of the parking lot with the 3 kids inside. Henry drove. The caseworker followed in her own car. Nobody talked much at first. The kids sat in the back seat the way kids do when they're not sure if they're allowed to relax. The youngest pressed her forehead to the window, watching the snow. The middle one picked at a loose thread on his sleeve. The oldest stared forward, jaw tight, like he was preparing to defend his siblings in a place he'd never seen. Henry didn't try to fill the silence. Older men understand something younger people forget. Sometimes quiet is the only respectful thing you can offer. The road turned to gravel. The tires crunched. The town fell behind them. Christmas decorations disappeared, replaced by bare trees and fence lines half buried in snow. When the farmhouse came into view, the youngest child sat up straighter. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't a miracle. A small house, a barn, a porch light burning steady against the gray morning. Henry pulled up and shut off the engine. "Here we are," he said. The oldest boy didn't move. Neither did the other 2. Henry looked at them through the rearview mirror. "You don't have to be brave," Henry said quietly. "You just have to be honest." The oldest boy swallowed and nodded once. They stepped out into the cold. Snow creaked under their shoes. The wind pushed gently at their coats. The front door opened before Henry could knock. Eli Carter stood in the doorway. No smile, no warm welcome speech. Just a man watching. His eyes went straight to the kids, then to Henry, then back to the kids again. He stepped aside. "Come in," he said. Inside, the house smelled like wood smoke and plain coffee. Warm, but not sweet. Practical warmth. The kids stopped just inside the doorway, all three, shoulder to shoulder. Eli didn't rush them. He didn't try to charm them. He crouched slightly, not to be cute, but to lower his height. "Morning," he said. The oldest boy answered for all of them. "Morning." Eli nodded. Then he said the sentence Henry had been waiting to hear. "I'm not going to ask you to trust me today," Eli said. "I'm going to ask you to watch me." The oldest boy's eyes narrowed. "Watch you do what?" he asked. Eli looked at the three kids carefully. "Watch me keep my word," he said. "If I give it." The youngest child shifted closer to her brother. The middle one held his breath. The oldest boy asked again, voice low. "Are you going to split us up?" It came out blunt, not rude, just desperate. Eli's jaw tightened. His eyes didn't look away. "No," he said. One word. But it landed heavy. The oldest boy didn't relax. "People say things," he said. "Then they change their minds." Eli nodded once. "I know," he said. "That's why I'm not making promises I can't keep. But I can tell you this. If you come here together. I don't do halfway." Henry saw the oldest boy's hands tremble slightly, not from cold, from the effort of not crying in front of strangers. The caseworker stepped inside behind them, shaking snow from her coat. "Mr. Carter," she said, "thank you for meeting with us." Eli nodded toward her, respectful, controlled. "I'm not doing this for a thank you," he said. Then he looked back at the kids. "I'm doing it because I remember what it felt like," he said quietly, "to be told your family is a problem to be solved." The oldest boy stared at him. "What happened to you?" the boy asked. Eli didn't answer right away. He looked at Henry for half a second, like he was checking whether this was the moment. Henry didn't push him. He didn't nod. He just stayed still. Eli turned back to the boy. "Not today," Eli said. "Today is about you." He stood up and motioned toward the kitchen table. "Sit," he said. "Warm up. Drink something. Then we talk about what comes next." The kids hesitated. Then the oldest boy made the first move. He walked forward, slow, careful, with his siblings still close behind. They sat at the table like they didn't quite believe the chair would hold them. Eli poured hot cocoa into 3 mugs. Nothing fancy, just hot and real. He slid the cups toward them. No speeches, just warmth. And that's where chapter 4 ends, with 3 siblings sitting at a table, hands wrapped around warm mugs, still afraid to hope, but finally, for the first time in a long time, not being asked to let go of each other to survive. The cocoa steamed between their hands. The 3 kids didn't drink it right away. They just held the mugs, like warmth itself was something that could disappear if they moved too fast. Eli Carter didn't rush them. He sat across the table, elbows resting lightly on the wood, hands open, not folded, not clenched. Open meant something. The caseworker stood near the doorway, clipboard tucked under her arm, watching, listening, measuring the room the way her job required. Henry Walker leaned against the wall by the window, quiet, present, not leading, not leaving. Eli spoke first. "There are things I need to say," he said, "and things I won't say yet." The oldest boy looked up. "Like what?" he asked. Eli nodded toward the mugs. "Like the truth," he said, "but not all of it at once." The boy didn't like that answer. It showed in his eyes. Eli saw it. "I'm not trying to trick you," he said. "I'm trying to see how you think." The oldest boy hesitated, then spoke carefully. "We think people leave," he said. "That's how we think." The middle child nodded without looking up. The youngest squeezed her mug tighter. Eli let that sit. "Fair," he said. "Then here's the part you deserve to know." He leaned back slightly. "This place is small," he said. "It's quiet. I work early, I work late, I don't have extra rooms, and I don't make promises I can't keep." The oldest boy's shoulders stiffened. "But," Eli continued, "I do have space, and if the county approves temporary guardianship, you could stay here while the paperwork moves." The caseworker stepped forward. "That would be temporary at first," she clarified. "Weeks, not years. During that time, we evaluate safety, stability, and fit." The oldest boy heard one word louder than the rest. "Temporary." He set his mug down carefully. "So we could still be moved," he said. The caseworker didn't lie. "Yes," she said, "that's possible." Silence pressed down on the table. The youngest child's lip trembled. Henry watched the oldest boy's hands. They were steady now, too steady, like he'd decided not to hope at all. Eli noticed it too. "This is the test," Eli said quietly. The caseworker looked at him, surprised. Eli didn't look back. "You're waiting for me to promise something permanent," Eli said to the boy, "and I won't do that today." The boy's jaw tightened. "Then why are we here?" he asked. Eli answered without hesitation. "Because I need to see if you'll run when things aren't guaranteed," he said. "And you need to see if I'll stay when it's inconvenient." The oldest boy stared at him. "That's not fair," he said. Eli nodded once. "No," he agreed, "it isn't." The middle child finally spoke. "If we come," he asked softly, "will we sleep in the same room?" Eli turned to him. "Yes," he said, "I can promise that." The youngest looked up. "And we don't have to leave each other?" she whispered. Eli met her eyes. "No," he said, "not here." The caseworker cleared her throat gently. "Mr. Carter," she said, "I need to ask, are you prepared for what this means? Trauma, behavioral challenges, school disruptions." Eli nodded. "I'm not expecting easy," he said. "I'm expecting honest." Henry shifted slightly. He knew that tone. It wasn't bravado, it was acceptance. The oldest boy looked at Henry. "Are you staying?" he asked suddenly. Henry didn't pretend. "No," he said, "this isn't my place." The boy's face fell. "But," Henry added, "I'm not disappearing either." The boy studied him. "You came back," the boy said. Henry nodded. "Yes," he said, "I did. That mattered." Eli stood and walked to the window. Outside, snow drifted down slow and steady, covering the fence lines and fields in clean white. "Here's the test," Eli said, still facing the glass. "You can leave today," he said. "No penalty, no pressure. The system will keep moving. You'll stay together as long as it allows." He turned back. "Or you can stay here tonight," he said. "Just tonight, warm meal, same roof, same room. Tomorrow, if you want to go back, I'll drive you myself." The caseworker raised an eyebrow. "That's unconventional," she said. Eli met her gaze. "So is splitting kids up 3 days before Christmas," he replied. The caseworker didn't argue. The oldest boy's mind raced. Henry could see it. Years of protecting, deciding, absorbing risk for 2 smaller lives. The boy looked down at his siblings. "What do you want?" he asked them. The middle child shrugged. "I don't want to move again," he said. The youngest whispered, "I like it warm." The boy closed his eyes for a second. Then he looked at Eli. "If we stay tonight," he said, "you don't change your mind in the morning." Eli didn't sugarcoat it. "I might be scared in the morning," he said, "but I won't pretend you were never here." The boy nodded slowly. "Okay," he said, "we'll stay." The caseworker wrote something on her clipboard. "I'll note this as a voluntary overnight visit," she said. "I'll return in the morning." She turned to Henry. "Thank you," she said quietly. Henry nodded once. The caseworker left. The house felt different without her, less official, more real. Eli moved to the stove. "I've got stew," he said. "It's not fancy." The oldest boy answered, "We're used to not fancy." Eli almost smiled. They ate quietly. No forced conversation, no speeches. After dinner, Eli showed them the room. 1 bed, 2 mattresses on the floor, extra blankets. "Same room," he said. "Like I said." The kids didn't speak. They just stood there, taking it in. Henry stayed by the door. "I'll be back tomorrow," he said. "Early." The oldest boy nodded. "Okay," he said. Henry paused, then added, "You did good today." The boy blinked. Nobody had said that to him in a long time. Henry left. The house settled into night sounds, wind, stove ticking, a distant owl. Eli stood in the doorway of the room. "You can lock the door if you want," he said, "or not." The oldest boy shook his head. "We'll keep it open," he said. Eli nodded. "Good," he said. "So will I." And that's where Chapter 5 ends, with 3 siblings lying down under the same roof, not promised a future, but given something just as rare, a night where staying together didn't require a fight. Christmas morning didn't arrive with bells. It arrived with light. A thin, pale strip of it slid across the floor and touched the edge of the blankets where the 3 kids slept, tangled together like they'd practiced their whole lives. No alarms, No shouting, no one telling them it was time to move again. Just quiet. The youngest woke first. She didn't sit up, she didn't speak, she just listened, waiting for the sound that usually came next. The sound of a door opening that meant change. It didn't come. She nudged her brother's arm. "Hey," she whispered, "it's morning." The middle child groaned softly and pulled the blanket over his head. The oldest opened his eyes and froze, heart racing for half a second, until he remembered where they were. Same room, same walls, same breathing beside him. He let out a slow breath he didn't know he had been holding. In the kitchen, a kettle clicked off. Eli Carter moved quietly, the way men do when they've decided not to make a big deal out of something important. He set out bowls, sliced bread, a small jar of jam someone had dropped off months ago and never claimed. No tree, no gifts wrapped in paper, just food, warm and real. Henry Walker's truck rolled into the driveway as the sun cleared the fence line. He sat there for a moment before getting out, watching smoke curl from the chimney. The porch light was still on, pale against the morning. Henry smiled, not wide, not obvious, just enough. Inside, the kids sat at the table, shoulders still tight, eyes alert. Breakfast didn't mean safety, not yet. Eli poured milk into 3 glasses. "Morning," he said. "Morning," the oldest answered. Henry stepped in, stamping snow from his boots. "Merry Christmas," he said softly. The youngest looked at him, confused. "It is?" she asked. Henry nodded. "It is," he said, "even when it doesn't feel like it." A knock came at the door. The room stiffened. The caseworker stepped inside, shaking snow from her coat, clipboard in hand. "Merry Christmas," she said, careful not to overstep the mood. She looked around, took it in. Clean counters, warm stove, 3 kids at one table. She met Eli's eyes. "They stayed?" she asked. "They did," Eli replied. The caseworker turned to the kids. "How was the night?" she asked gently. The middle child shrugged. "Quiet," he said. The youngest added, "Warm." The oldest hesitated. "We stayed together," he said. Like he said. That mattered. The caseworker checked a box on her clipboard. "I'll need to do a walkthrough," she said, "and we'll need signatures for temporary guardianship if we move forward." Henry watched the oldest boy's face change at the word temporary. Eli saw it too. "This part isn't the decision," Eli said. "It's the process." The caseworker nodded. "Correct," she said. "No one is being forced today." She walked through the house, asking practical questions. Smoke detectors, locks, heating. Eli answered plainly. No charm, no performance. Back at the table, the oldest boy leaned toward Henry. "Does this mean we have to go back?" he asked quietly. Henry didn't lie. "It means nothing happens fast," he said. "That's not always bad." The boy thought about that. The caseworker returned and closed her folder. "Here's where we are," she said. "I can approve a temporary guardianship pending full review. That keeps you here for now, together." The youngest exhaled. "For how long?" the middle child asked. "Weeks," the caseworker said. "Possibly longer." The oldest boy looked at Eli. "And after that?" he asked. Eli didn't dodge it. "After that," he said, "we decide again, together." The caseworker raised an eyebrow. "That's not usually how it's phrased," she said. Eli met her look. "It is here." She paused, then nodded. "I'll file the paperwork," she said. "I'll be back after the holiday." She turned to the kids. "You did well," she said, standing up for each other. The oldest boy looked surprised. After she left, the house felt quieter, but not emptier. Henry stayed by the door, hat in his hands. "I won't stay long," he said. "Today's yours." The oldest boy stood. "Thank you," he said. Not small, not rushed, real. Henry nodded once. "Take care of them," Henry said to Eli. Eli answered without hesitation. "I am." Henry stepped back into the snow. Inside, Eli cleared the table. "There's one more thing," he said. "I don't celebrate big, but I do work." He handed each of them a folded piece of paper. Chores, simple ones. Feed the chickens, stack wood, sweep the porch. The middle child smiled, just a little. "We can do that," he said. "I know," Eli replied. They spent the morning moving slow, not because there was nothing to do, but because no one was rushing them out at the door. Snow fell steady. At noon, Eli paused at the window. "If you want," he said, "you can call this place what you want." The youngest didn't hesitate. "It's our farm," she said. The oldest swallowed. Not yet, he said gently. But maybe. Eli nodded. That's honest, he said. That afternoon, Henry drove past once more, just to check the chimney smoke. He didn't stop. He didn't need to, because Christmas didn't fix everything. It just gave them something rare. Time. And that's where Chapter 6 ends, with paperwork started, fear still present, and 3 siblings waking up on Christmas morning under the same roof, realizing that staying together might finally be allowed to last longer than a night. After Christmas, the world didn't get softer. It got quieter. The lights came down, the stores went back to normal, and the snow kept falling like it didn't care what day it was. On Eli Carter's farm, mornings started the same way every day. Wood, water, feed, heat. The kids learned the rhythm fast, not because it was easy, but because routine feels like safety when you've lived without it. The middle child, still thin, still cautious, took pride in stacking firewood straight. He didn't talk much while he worked, but he worked hard, like the work itself was proof he deserved to stay. The youngest followed Eli like a shadow. She carried a small scoop of feed with both hands, serious-faced, trying not to spill a single grain. Every time she succeeded, her shoulders lifted a little, like her body was remembering how to be a kid. And the oldest? He watched everything, not the way a curious child watches, the way a guard watches. He watched how Eli handled the animals. He watched how Eli spoke when he was tired. He watched whether the kindness had conditions. He watched for the moment things would change, because in his experience, things always changed. One afternoon, Eli drove them into town for supplies. Nothing big, flour, milk, a coil of rope. A bag of dog food Eli didn't admit was for any dog, because there wasn't one, and he wasn't in the mood for questions. The oldest boy sat in the passenger seat, eyes forward. The other 2 sat in back. Town felt different now, not because the buildings had changed, because they had. People looked longer, at the truck, at the kids, at Eli, at the hardware store. A man behind the counter nodded at Eli, then let his eyes slide to the kids. "Didn't know you had company," the man said. Eli kept his voice even. "I do," he said. The man smiled like he was being friendly. "Temporary?" he asked. It was a small word, said casually, but it hit like a rock. The oldest boy's shoulders stiffened. Eli didn't answer right away. He paid for the rope, took the receipt, and finally said, "They're with me?" The man lifted his eyebrows, not arguing, just filing it away. In a small town, people didn't need facts. They needed a story. And if you didn't give them one, they made one. Outside the store, the caseworker's car was parked near the curb. She stepped out when she saw them. "Mr. Carter," she said, "Henry told me you were coming into town today." Eli nodded once. The kids froze the moment they saw her, like the office came back into their bodies. The caseworker crouched slightly and spoke gently. "Hi," she said. "I just wanted to check in." The oldest boy spoke first. "Are we leaving?" he asked. The caseworker's face softened. "No," she said quickly, "not today." The boy didn't relax. "Not today," he repeated. "That means maybe tomorrow." The caseworker swallowed. "It means I'm still doing the review," she said. "And right now, you're together and you're safe." The oldest boy looked at Eli. Eli didn't speak, but he moved one step closer to the kids. Not dramatic, just positioned, like a quiet shield. The caseworker noticed. She stood. "I'll come by the farm this week," she said to Eli. "Just a follow-up." Eli nodded. "Fine," he said. She turned back to the kids. "You're doing the right thing," she said. "Working, going to school again soon, that matters." Then she walked away. The oldest boy watched her go until she turned the corner. On the ride back, nobody spoke for a long time. Snow blew across the road in pale sheets. The truck heater hummed. Finally, the middle child whispered from the back seat, "They're talking about us." The youngest asked, "Who?" "The town," the middle child said. The oldest boy didn't look back. "Let them talk," he said quietly. But his voice didn't sound confident. It sounded like a warning. That night, Eli found the oldest boy outside by the woodpile, long after the other 2 were asleep. The boy was holding an axe like he was practicing, but he wasn't chopping. He was thinking. Eli stepped onto the porch. "You're not helping by staying up," Eli said. The boy didn't turn around. "I'm not sleeping," he replied. "Not when people can decide things." Eli let that sit for a moment. Then he said, "Come inside." The boy finally turned. His eyes were sharp in the porch light. "Are you going to change your mind?" he asked. Eli's jaw tightened. "No," he said. The boy didn't believe it yet. "People ask questions," the boy said. "They always do, and when they ask enough, they start taking things." Eli nodded once. "That's true," he said. "Sometimes they do." The boy swallowed. "So, what happens when they come here?" he asked. "When they say we don't belong?" Eli walked down the steps slowly and stood near the woodpile, close enough to be real. "I'm going to tell you something," Eli said, "and you're not going to like it." The boy held his breath. Eli's voice stayed calm. "I can't control what people say," Eli said. "I can't control what rumors do. I can't control every piece of paperwork in that county office." The boy's face hardened. Eli lifted a hand slightly, not to stop him, just to steady the moment. "But I can control what happens on this land," Eli said. "In this house, under this roof." The oldest boy stared at him, searching for the catch. Eli continued. "And I can control what I sign," he said. "What I commit to, what I fight for." The boy's eyes narrowed. "Fight?" he repeated. Eli nodded. "Yes," he said. "Fight. Not with fists, not with noise, with consistency, with paperwork, with showing up, with refusing to let a family be treated like a problem." The oldest boy's throat moved like he was trying to swallow a feeling too big. "What if they make you choose?" the boy asked. "What if they say you can only take one?" Eli didn't hesitate. "Then I take none," he said. "Because I'm not splitting you." The boy blinked. Eli held his gaze. "If you're here," Eli said, "you're here together. That's the only deal I make." The boy's eyes went glassy, but he didn't let tears fall. He nodded once. "Okay," he whispered. Eli pointed toward the house. "Go inside," he said. "You need sleep." The boy hesitated. Then he asked the question that mattered more than all the others. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. Eli looked out over the field, white under moonlight. His voice went low. "Because I know what it costs," Eli said, "when nobody does." He didn't explain further, not tonight. He didn't need to. The boy stared at him a long moment. Then he set the axe down carefully, like putting down a weapon, and he walked inside. And that's where Chapter 7 ends. With the town beginning to whisper, the system still moving in the background, and one frightened older brother finally hearing the words he needed most. Not maybe, not we'll see, but I won't split you. The last decision didn't come with a gavel. It came on a Tuesday morning. No snowstorm, no dramatic music, just gray sky, wet boots by the door, and the sound of a truck pulling into the driveway. Eli Carter stood at the kitchen sink when he heard it. He didn't rush. He dried his hands. He took a breath. The three kids sat at the table, pretending to do homework. The oldest wasn't pretending very well. "That's them," he said. Eli nodded. "I know." Henry Walker stepped in first, hat in his hands. The caseworker followed, folder tucked close to her chest like it mattered how carefully she held it. "Morning," Henry said. "Morning," Eli replied. The caseworker looked at the kids. "Hi," she said. "We won't take long." Nobody believed that part. They sat. The folder opened. Papers shifted. The oldest boy leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Are we leaving?" he asked. The caseworker met his eyes. "No," she said. "You're staying." The room didn't explode with joy. It went quiet. The youngest blinked. "All of us?" "Yes," the caseworker said. "All of you." The middle child looked down and at his hands. They were shaking. "For how long?" he asked. The caseworker took a breath. "Permanent guardianship," she said, "with the option to pursue adoption if everyone agrees later." The oldest boy looked at Eli. "You're not changing your mind?" he asked. Eli shook his head. "No," he said. "I didn't then. I won't now." The boy's face crumpled, not loudly, not suddenly, just the way walls fall when they're tired of holding. Henry looked away for a moment. He'd learned long ago to give people space when something sacred happened. The caseworker closed the folder. "You did everything right," she said to the kids. "You stayed together, you spoke up, and you were patient." She stood. "I'll check in," she added. "But this part, it's settled." When she left, the house didn't feel empty. It felt claimed. Eli cleared his throat. "There's one more thing," he said. The kids stiffened again. "Habit." Eli reached into a drawer and pulled out a folded piece of paper, old, soft at the edges. "I'm not good at speeches," he said, "but I need to say this once." He unfolded the paper. It was a Bible verse, written in careful handwriting. "God sets the lonely in families." He didn't read the reference. He didn't need to. "My mother kept that," Eli said quietly. "She said God doesn't always fix things fast, but he doesn't waste pain." The oldest boy swallowed. "You believe that?" he asked. Eli nodded. "I do," he said. "Not because life got easier, because it finally made sense." Henry stepped forward. "I've seen it too," he said. "Help doesn't always come loud. Sometimes God sends it quiet, through steady hands, open doors, and people who choose to stay." The youngest asked the question no one else could. "Does that mean we're family?" Eli didn't rush the answer. "Yes," he said, "if you want to be." The middle child nodded immediately. "I do." The youngest smiled and leaned into her brother. The oldest stayed still. "Family doesn't leave," he said. Eli met his eyes. "Then don't," he replied. "I won't." The boy let out a breath that sounded like prayer. That night, snow returned, soft, slow, the kind that quiets the world. They ate dinner at the same table. Eli burned the rolls. Nobody cared. Afterward, Henry stood by the door. "My work's done," he said. The oldest boy walked over and held out his hand. Henry took it, firm and gentle. "You kept your word," the boy said. Henry smiled. "So did you." Outside, Henry paused at the porch steps. "Eli," he said, "you didn't save them?" Eli raised an eyebrow. Henry continued. "You stayed. That's better." Henry drove away into the snow, headlights fading like something finally at peace. Inside, Eli turned off the lights one by one. The kids settled into their room, same promise. Before sleep, the youngest whispered, "Can we pray?" Eli hesitated. "I'm not fancy at it," he said. "That's okay," she replied. "We're not fancy either." So they prayed the way old Americans do. Short, awkward, honest. "Thank you for keeping us together," Eli said. "Help us stay." Amen. Years later, people would ask how it happened, how 3 kids with nothing ended up with a farm, a future, and a family that chose them. The answer was never complicated. It wasn't luck. It wasn't paperwork. It was this. Someone said no to splitting them. Someone else said yes to staying. And God did what he's always done. He took what was broken and placed it where it belonged. And that's where the story ends. Not with a miracle, but with a family, built on faith, held together by choice, and warm enough to last.